Welcome in, everybody, to the Maize and Blue Reviews Michigan basketball postgame live show. Overtime at Williams Arena, and Michigan comes out on the losing end of an 84-81 score in overtime at Minnesota. We're here to talk about it. We're here after every Michigan basketball game. We'll take you through this one like we always do. This was a game I didn't think that Michigan played very well from the beginning. Nobody really played well. Hey, Trey Donaldson, you looked, and he was in double figures, but they weren't playing well as a team, and nobody really individually, unless you want to say Donaldson, that's fine. And then, yet Michigan was still got there at the half, and they were up by as many as 11 in the first half, but they led by 9. And I thought they played their worst game of the worst first half of the season. But yet, you're sitting there and saying, well, they're up by 9. That's not so bad if you can play your worst half, and then you feel like, and you're on the road and you're up by 9 points. But from there, the Gophers, you could tell that, I don't know, I say they solid, they're like any other team, when they're at home, man, they're trying to get a dub. There was a sparse crowd there. They didn't have their students, but you could tell that they were getting after it on the glass, and they cut into Michigan's lead. And then all the way through, they ended up taking the lead with 4 minutes to go. And it looked like Michigan, I think late, they really started running some sets, which they weren't really doing. The sets that we have seen, the Area 51, high-low, the 7-footers, the pick and roll that teams haven't been able to stop. They weren't doing that. They didn't have Wolf and Golden out there at the same time. But towards the end, they made a concerted effort to give those guys and start running that action, and it was working. And then Wolf had a big 3 late. It put Michigan up by a bucket, but this Garcia, who we'll get to, who made the big shot from the logo in overtime to win the game, or we'd still be playing in double OT, he stepped up. He had a good game all the way through. You could see it. He's a southpaw, and he knocked down his free throws real late in regulation, and then Trey Donaldson tried to go coast to coast, and could have been a foul call. I know if you're a Michigan fan, you're like, where's the foul? He didn't get it. And so I'm not laughing at Trey or the officials. It's just, laughing because, you really do get that call, and he didn't get it. And then when you got into overtime, Wolf tied it late, but then there was that Garcia long bomb, and Minnesota won it at the buzzer. Now, the broadcast team said, this is the kind of game, if you want to win the Big Ten championship, that you got to win. I agree with that. This is one that, you're thinking that this is a setback. If you're trying to win the Big Ten crown, not all is lost if they can learn from it. The turnover thing, it gets, when you watch Michigan, they're good. They're very entertaining. And, look at them. They're in the top 25. Ken Pom has them as heading into the game tonight. There were 11. I mean, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. We're talking about them winning the vying for the conference crown. And if you do that, I mean, if you're vying for it, they had them, I think Lenardi had them as a 6 seed. And you're talking about, if you could win the Big Ten, being a 1 or a 2 or a 3. So all of that stuff was on the table, but then you're watching them turn the ball over in the first couple of minutes. And you're like, yeah, well, this is Michigan. This is what they've done all year long. And you don't even you say it, but you don't like saying it. And then if you're a Michigan fan, you know it, but you don't really like hearing it or reading it because you know it. And people saying, well, if they keep doing this, it's going to cost them. And, once you say it, 50 times, I mean, you get it, and we all get it. And then they've shown, last game, They had a clean game, and they looked like they were valuing the ball more, but they didn't in this game here. And then Minnesota was getting after them on the glass, which is something that you have to fight and play harder if you're Michigan, if you're getting out rebounded. When you got the size, you got the athletes, there's no reason that Michigan should be getting hurt on the glass like they were in this game. But missed layups, and then I think the free throw line ended up getting them as well. You could look, and you look at the stats in this game. Michigan shot under 50%, 50% from downtown, 14 of 20 from the free throw line. But in regulation, Vlad Golden missed the front end of a 1-and-1. He split a pair, and so did Damari Burnett. And when you're talking about one possession game, 1 point game, tie game, overtime, those are all pretty magnified. You make one or two of those, you're talking about winning the game and not heading home with the L. And so, the free throw line ended up getting them tonight as well. So all of that, it wasn't really Michigan's night, and yet it could have been, as they tried to, just make some big plays down the stretch and end up walking away with a dub. And I would be sitting here saying, Michigan really didn't play a good game, and they escaped by executing late with a W. But, that's not the case. Minnesota made some big-time shots late, and they end up getting the dub. And now Michigan has to think about if they can value the ball more and play harder. I think those are the two things that Dusty May would probably be emphasizing out there. Let's have a look at some of the feedback before we take a look at some of the other points, and also look at the box score. If there's anything that comes out there that we can see, and things that we might well, it's going to take me a second to put that in there. We'll take a look at it in a second. Let's have a look and see what some of the folks are saying. Big Meek was saying the show should start now. He posted that in overtime, not at the beginning or anything of the show, because when it was going to overtime, I took a look to see when I was planning on starting the broadcast, and I had put enough time in there. So that was in overtime, where you might have been able to put that and put that earlier in the broadcast. That wasn't the case. We got Jesse talking about he wishes he could call in. I wish you could call in too. That'd be pretty nice. We do have that capability. I had a phone line going for a while, and then I think I just stopped using it. I put it out there. I guess I didn't put it out there as much as maybe I should have, but we did have that capability at one point. And get that box score. Let's see. Jesse says, can we discuss if Rodney Gale Jr. is an actual double agent, still loyal to Ohio? This is his third game. He's choked, or like Oklahoma and tonight, fouled the shooter. Yeah, well, Rodney Gale had, I was going to say, his worst game of the season. He's had some clunkers. When he came back from injury, he actually had his best game, so he was looking pretty good. But, yeah, I don't know. I think he rushes it too much. At times, he plays too fast, and he jumps when he doesn't know what he's going to do with the ball. That's not a good thing to do. He kind of gets caught up in the air, thinking he's going to pass, thinking he's going to shoot. He ends up, tripping, throwing it out of bounds. And so, yeah, that's he did not have a good game. Talking about him, I don't know if it's, I think he just plays too fast. I wouldn't say that, that's choking. I could see, when you come from Ohio State, people are going to get on you when you don't play like that, or when you play like that, I'm sorry. And so, he's got to take a little bit of that from the fans, especially when he plays like, he did tonight, which wasn't very good. And he's talking about their final shot of the game. Yeah, it was funny. I was looking during the game at some I was looking at a big board mock draft, and I was seeing if Danny Wolf or Vlad Golden had popped up, and I think this one had a top 60 players. Maybe it was 80, but actually Roddy Gale had showed up in as a late like second round pick, and I was like, That was NBA draft.net, which people say, well, that's the problem. You're looking at NBA draft.net, but I was just checking it out. I mean, I know they get a bad rap, but yeah, I was surprised to see Gale's name in there. Jesse's bottom lining it a little bit with a few of his feedback posts here. He says, bottom line, turnovers, terrible free throw shooting, and a poor game by Donaldson means a loss. Yeah, Donaldson played well, but then not towards the end. This is how you beat this team. He said it's like they didn't want to win. It was reminiscent of the Wake Forest game. They had endless chances to take the lead, but they refused to do it. Yeah, a lot of Roddy talk. Gale. Jesse talking about Vlad Golden. Vlad Golden did not have a very good game. You know, he had been really ascending and playing fantastic. That was not the case tonight. You know, every game, it seems like the refs are horrible, and then especially when you lose. So what am I going to say? I mean, yeah, they were terrible. I thought that, you know, I say this, people don't like to hear it, but I'm going to say it again. You know, it usually evens out in a game. It certainly evens out usually in a season. But, you know, if you really thought Michigan was getting the short end of it, you know, there was Trey Donaldson had a travel where, I mean, it was a pretty obvious one, and they didn't call it there. So, you know, bad on both sides. That's going to happen. But, yeah, you know, Gale had a bad game. I mean, that's it. Yeah, I mean, name calling, I don't know. I don't know. Keegan says we lost tonight, but I think it's a Final Four team, a Final Four in the Big Ten tournament. You know, Final Four. You're talking about? Yeah, a little bit. You know, it's tough after a loss to be sitting on here and talking about, oh yeah, let's look at the most optimistic thing. This team could still make the Final Four. That's true. Their ceiling, if they could put it all together, they're a very good team, and they're well coached. You wonder about the guard play. You know, you saw, who was it? Namari Burnett in this game got in some foul trouble early, and then Reuben Jones came in, and, you know, Reuben Jones, you know, we're talking about Gale, but it's not like Reuben Jones is coming in and you're like, oh, just put him in. He's doing so well. He's not really doing well at all. And so you're saying, well, let's put the freshman in. Well, you know, are they doing anything? Pippen got a little bit of burn. I think late in the game when Jones did make, he didn't have a good sequence on defense. I think they did put Pippen in. They were going a little offense defense there. And I know Kason, who showed so much promise in that exhibition game, we haven't seen him. He didn't play tonight. So, you know, they have, let's say, a guard issue. They need these guards to play better overall. You know, that's going to be something that I think that we could all agree on. I'd say that's kind of like an obvious thing, but you start talking about the Final Four, you know, you need good guard play, and they didn't really have that tonight. Let's see if I can look at some of these numbers, see if I'm going to be able to. Trying to hit the button, and it's not scrolling for me. Maybe it's my computer's fault. I'll hit it a couple more times, see if I could get it up, and take a look at some of these numbers from the game. Well, I've got it right in front of me here. Let's take a look at the box score for Michigan tonight. Not really sure why that is not. Well, give me one more second on it. I don't really care about Garcia. I didn't really want to look at him and see how he was doing. But all right, so Vlad in this game ended up 5 of 15, 18 points. Danny Wolf did not look good in the first half, and yet came back and down the stretch did play pretty well. 8 of 10. You look at his line and 23 points. Here's Roddy Gale, 29 minutes, 0 of 6 from the floor, 0 of 3 from downtown. Strange. And just not able to do anything. It ends up with 2 points. Trey Donaldson had 14, 6-11 from the floor. Namari Burnett, just 2 of 5 and ended up with 6 points. Will Cheddar was a real shot in the arm early in this game, came in, was knocking down some threes, some corner threes. He looked good, had 15 points. Walters was 6 minutes, and Pippen played 5, no scoring for those guys. And then Reuben Jones was in there for 23 minutes, 1 of 5 for Reuben Jones. And so that was it. You'd look at some of that guard play. Oh, for some reason now, yeah, look at that. Fix that in the future. That's it when it comes down, taking a look at the box score. Let's have a look at some more of the feedback. Here's a fire Dusty. Let's look at the rebounds overall. Michigan had 44 and Minnesota 39. It didn't seem like that. Even on the offensive rebounds for 15, but it really seemed like Minnesota was getting at him on the glass. AJ's talking about the defensive rebounding. Just in key spots when you're able to do that. Minnesota did a good job. Eliminate the half-court buzzer shot. It's BS. I don't understand that. How are you going to eliminate that? This one says this team is a first-round exit. Well, if this team was going to, steamroll through everybody, you talk about them being a number 1 seed and one of the favorites to get to the Final Four, losing on the road in the Big Ten. This is their first loss in conference play. I'm not going to overreact on it, but I understand that. Don's talking about maybe from a Minnesota standpoint, a conference loss at home. It's tough to win on the road in conference play, even if you're playing a team like Minnesota. Big Meek was talking about no fire, no intensity seen tonight. That's on the coach. I'll buy that. They did not seem like they didn't have it. They didn't have it. That was apparent from early on. They were doing a little too much one, they call it hero ball. Somebody would just get the ball and say, I'm just going to go one-on-one and take it in there. They weren't setting a lot of screens. They didn't look like they had a lot of action. It was kind of like, what are you guys doing? Now, to Dusty May's credit, I thought late in the game, we saw some sets. We saw the area 51 high-low. We saw the pick and roll that I was wondering where it was all game long. And then finally, in I don't know exactly, the last 5 minutes of the game, I was taking notes all the way through that. And I make a note. And when they were finally, starting to, I'm looking with, in overtime, they were definitely, you see, Wolf lobbing the golden, Wolf the golden dunk, Trey to Burnett, Wolf fouled on a drive. They were using the high-low, and then they did it in the end of regulation as well. But I think the no intensity part, and again, this is a well-coached team. I don't know what. Look, you want to get in on a day where they lose, and you think that they're not, but Dusty May's a pretty good coach. In fact, if they were, I don't know what you're talking about, Chi-Town. They don't do this right now, but this is now a little bit over halfway through the season. But if you had a coach of the year in the Big Ten, if you had a coach of the year in all of college basketball, Dusty May would be the vote. So knock the and so what do you get for being at the halfway point, coach of the year? Not a whole lot, especially when you get a road loss at Minnesota. But let's not overreact either. there's a little bit of the overreacting. Well, it's from a lot of people here. Look, CK, they don't like it. The turnovers will destroy every team. Yeah, just when you thought maybe they were getting it going, and they didn't. AJ, maybe somebody being able to look at the long view here. He says this team should still have a shot at the Big Ten championship, but they got to solve their defensive rebounding challenges. Big Meek is talking about you got to fire up these players, even when they play a team without a good record. What is Dusty May's offensive philosophy? He says chaos. Well, I think Dusty May allows his offense a lot of freedom. And then he has two players in Area 51, in Golden and Wolf, that are going to be a problem for every other team in college basketball to match up with. That's something that on a quick turnaround, Minnesota actually, they played a day after Michigan, so their scout was a little short on Michigan, and Michigan didn't utilize, they didn't have as much prep time for Michigan. So again, I would say that they didn't go to their bread and butter like they have right at the outset of games. And so that's the, overall, when you're talking about offensive philosophy, it's Michigan. It's you play where your man goes. You're going opposite, and a good shot, they talk about it, and it's a mindset. So that's what the philosophy is, and it's not chaos. So CK keeping it real. You have him through this game. Yeah, it's a bad game. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, this is it. Forget it. This is going to be the end. The last one, if you're listening on the podcast, is Fancy Lion, who says this team is worse than last year's team. They already have a better record than last year's team. So enough with that. We're just going to have to shut down the feedback. I apologize if anybody else was wanting to get in there and make a point. But, you're trying to be funny, maybe. I don't know. And you're upset. You lose a game you thought you should win. Maybe you bet Michigan minus 10.5. You thought all of the things, short turnaround for Minnesota and the scout. Michigan would wipe the floor with them. You lost a couple ducats. So you're upset when you see the team not with a lot of intensity, turning it over, not making free throws. Yeah. If you just took a snapshot of this game and watch it, didn't watch any other Michigan games, you'd say this team looks a lot like last year's team. So heading into the game, however, if you looked, Michigan was ranked number 11, not in the Big Ten, in the KenPom rankings, a number 11, and they were 14th offense, 20th defense on the adjusted statistics there for KenPom. And if you look, just the second highest Big Ten ranked team in this formula by KP, Illinois at 8, Michigan at 11, Purdue at 12. That's a game that's coming up. We'll get to that. And then Michigan State checking in there at 14 in the rankings. And it was just on Sunday, as Michigan falls to 13-4 and 5-1 in the conference, that Jess Settles, the former Iowa sharpshooter, was talking about Michigan and in the Final Four, if they shot the ball well, like they did at times Sunday against Washington. So things have changed a little bit things have changed quickly since then in the fans' minds, that's for sure. Let's look at that upcoming schedule, and it's brought to you by the Maize and Blue Review. Why not here in 2025? Join us on the Maize and Blue Review. You can talk Michigan basketball and football, hockey, Michigan sports all day, all night. Go to michigan.rivals.com. We'd love to see you over there. And, if you're a Michigan fan, treat yourself. I guarantee you'll like it. All right, here's the upcoming schedule. Michigan will play again this Sunday with all the football going on, Michigan will have a 2:00 tip. They'll bring the Wildcats in, and that game will be on the Big Ten Network. And then that game I talked about against Purdue will then be on a week from Friday. We're sitting here Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Michigan and Purdue, 2 top 25 teams, and then Michigan will then come back home and take on Penn State. Well, that's going to do it here for this one. I appreciate everybody hanging in there and coming on here after a loss. Everybody thought this was going to be a win for Michigan, and even though they didn't play well, it looked like they were going to be able to steal one, but that was not the case. They lose by 3 on a Hail Mary by Garcia with the clock running out to win it for the Gophers at Williams Arena. 84-81 is the final. Talk with you tomorrow on this very feed that you're watching or listening to on the Good Afternoon Michigan Football Show at 2:00. And until then, everybody have themselves a great night, and we'll talk with you soon. So long.